Alright, today we're on the 240 again. Sounds cammed. So the first thing I'm going to do with the 240 is I'm going to strip all this janky cut up stock wiring out before we move on to our next step. Alright, so the wiring has been completely removed. Here it is in all of its spliced up junky glory. I mean, look at this. This is a mess. This is a freaking mess. Everything is cut. Everything is cut. So, let me run over to the house and get what we got to replace this. So now, the thing we just got for the 240, we got a Wiring Specialties Pro Series harness to replace this cut up mess. And to power it all, we got a Haltech Elite 1500 standalone ECU. So we can go ahead and tune this to do whatever Jeremy wants it to do. Well, this project has been put to a serious halt. So in the middle of installing the Wiring Specialties harness, I noticed that this SR20 had a KA24 TPS on it. The plugs were wrong, so we needed an SR20 TPS. I could probably make the KA one work. I haven't researched if the voltages are similar, but I'm not cutting into a $700 Wiring Specialties harness. We bought this specifically to not cut anything. And well, we talked to 4 different suppliers of sensors, OEM sensors, and I can't talk Jeremy into buying like a $20 sensor very temporarily just to get it running. So their delivery date is 15 to 17 weeks because of the current issue with shipping and getting ships unloaded with stuff from overseas. And as of right now, which is October 30th of 2021, 15 to 17 weeks puts us into almost the second quarter of 2022. So I guess this is gonna go get rehibernated. Alright, almost 5 months have passed. The sensor has showed up. I'm conveniently wearing the same hat and jacket so you can pretend no time has passed. And we're going to get back to finishing up the wiring on this 240. Fortunately, I got to do it outside because, well, it doesn't move itself anymore since the wiring harness is pulled out. And it's starting to rain. So that's perfect. Huh, OEM sensor doesn't fit. Oh, LOL, the not OEM, the $20 non-OEM sensor fits. The $120 OEM sensor does not. What are the odds? So, the ECU has power. Power light comes on when I turn on the ignition. The dash lights up a little bit, and the tachometer twitches every once in a while. So I'm going to go ahead and hook up my laptop. I'm going to open up my Haltech software and see what it says. I don't really know what to expect. I feel like such a tuner now. All I did was hook up a USB cable to a car, but man, it feels official. For anybody not detecting, I'm being sarcastic. Oh, look at this. This flash drive has all these base. I don't even need to go online. They have all the base maps I need. There it is. S14, SR20 DET. Nice. Okay, so I just got the last of the stock lower harness out. The thing connects to, the alternator, the starter. It goes all the way up to the fuse box. So this is all hollowed out down there. And just got to get the rest hooked up now. Alright, so I think I have all the wiring hooked up. The alternator has power. The starter has power. All that's hooked up. The only thing that's not hooked up is like the reverse light on the trans. And yeah, the plug's wrong. I gotta figure that out. So I'm gonna put power to the battery. Make sure nothing catches on fire. That's why the tripod's set up, in case it does. Well, nothing's melting yet. I guess that means I hooked up all the power to the right spots. Nothing happens when I crank it, so that's good, right? Okay, so about a week later, we got an ISR downpipe, which has a bung big enough. Look how nice. Those welds are pretty good. Anyway, it's got a bung for the O2 that's big enough to run the Haltech wideband. I'm gonna go ahead and get this switched out, and should be ready to start the 240 today. Finally, we started this project all the way back in like November or December of 2019, if you can believe it. It's March. No, actually today is April 5th, 2022. So, part delays. Perfect. Let's get it on the car. So this is the stock SR20 turbo pipe, downpipe, whatever you want to call it. I call it the turbo pipe because the downpipe actually goes underneath the body, but this is the ISR pipe. This is the stock, and you can see how much room there is for flow versus in here. This area is really kind of cut off. I mean, it's there, but at the same time, it's got a it's not as much as this. This should flow a little bit better, and it also does not have a hole for the EGR. So the EGR on this motor was deleted. I personally don't delete EGRs. I don't see much benefit. But it was deleted on this. I don't have any of the parts, so I needed an EGR-less downpipe. So let's get it on the car and see if we can start this thing. Alright, downpipe is bolted to the turbo pipe. And this is a old school ISIS downpipe before ISIS had to change their name to ISR, obviously because of the terrorist group ISIS. But yeah, there's some JDM history right there. Alright, let me turn on the ignition, get the ECU to power up. There we go. I'm going to open my Haltech software. This always takes so long. I don't blame Haltech, that's my computer. Okay, I'm not sure it's going to start because I'm only at 11 volts. But we got all the data we need. So let's see what it does. Nope, can't even turn the motor over. 13.8 volts, much better. Alright, I already checked I'm trying to do a mental checklist. So check the oil. Downpipe's all bolted in. AFR should be taken care of. I know it says 13, but it's not running yet. Alright, the wideband is online. The ignition angle and everything is finally changing. I'm not sure why it's doing that. It's kind of running, so now I just gotta tweak it. So I did some minor tweaking. I'm going to be completely honest, I really didn't change anything from the last time. It just, the 240 decided to start today for no reason. But I got the timing set properly now, so I'm going to drive it over to the house to demonstrate that it does so. I think I jinxed it. I shouldn't have said it. Never say on camera your car runs, because then it won't run. Never mind, I'm not going to demonstrate that it works. What the fuck? I'm going to insert a clip of it here driving down the street just so I can prove it actually happened. I'm disappointed. This car. So the 240 does look pretty crummy from years of sitting in the shed. Lots of, you know, mildew and stuff built up on the paint. And I know giving it a wash won't really do much. It's not going to make it look brand new, but getting this off make it look a little bit better. And I did just fix my power washer. So in honor of it running, why not go wash it just for fun? Wow, the speedo is wildly off. This is not 40 miles an hour. So I'm hooking up all the trunk wiring again, getting this thing ready for the street. And I'd never liked this conduit tube crap, so I'm gonna go ahead and touch that up real quick. All right, there we go. I got it all rewrapped. I used electric tape on all my joints instead of heat shrink. You can see the difference, like here's electric tape, here's heat shrink. Heat shrink's always better, it secures it better and it looks better, but this isn't the level of build we're going to be doing on this 240. It's not, you know, Jeremy's not looking for show card level stuff. This, I had to de-pin the connector to do this, so just got to plug it in. All right, so the trunk wiring is in and consolidated. So there we go. That is the resolution to that finally. So I pulled the 240 in here and I pulled the valve cover off to see if I could figure out what that little tinky noise. It's not a knock. It's like it sounds like taking a thin piece of like bracket metal and just tapping it on something. I want to see if something was loose in the head. Everything's tight. And the other day I went and got an inch-pound torque wrench, which I did not have 2 years ago when I built this motor. So I took the opportunity to loosen all the cam caps and make sure they were torqued to the specified inch-pounds, because before I guessed with a 1/4 inch ratchet wrench. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this back together since there's nothing wrong in the head, and I guess I'm just going to keep looking for that noise. But it is good to see everything still in good health after, you know, running for 2 hours, you know, half running on a bad ECU and a bad harness, and then kind of half running on this one until I got it tuned, and the other hours and hours of cranking until I got it to start. So it is nice to see everything is in good shape. And because everybody's going to see a red mirror on it, so I can't hide it, like an idiot, I caught the edge of that door frame. I did it to one of my Sentras years ago. Was pretty sure I was competent enough to not do it again, and then bam, I did it again. So that's my bad. That's obviously not going to cost Jeremy anything. That's my fault. So I've bought a new mirror. All right, the battery is officially mounted. I used the stock metal 240 battery tie down piece because the kit came with this plastic one and I can bend it by hand. That's no good. So I will powder coat that matte black a little bit later. But for now, there you go. The battery is in place. It shakes the car when you shake the battery. There we go. The Greddy is now attached to the 240's downpipe. Matt's not super happy with the welds, but his aluminum TIG wasn't up and running, so he had to use the spool gun, which he said wasn't going to make a pretty weld anyway, but I think that looks pretty half decent for, I mean, that literally took 30 seconds with the spool gun that runs at 650 inches per minute. So let's go get this mounted on the car. So when you look under the hood, right here, you can see the Greddy. Looks pretty nice. You can see it pretty well. I think Jeremy would be happy. And confirmed, when you go down the road and let off, it does go now instead of stoo-doo-doo. Alright, so my bumper nuts finally showed up, and the Koki now has a front bumper mounted. Only mounted with 4 screws right now, but it's pretty solid. Obviously the corner lights aren't on, and the little lower marker lights aren't on, and there's no center grille. But now it's got a bumper. So here we go. I learned something new. This is an S14 speed sensor, and here we have this plug from Wiring Specialties that goes down to here. And when I first put the harness in, this plug obviously didn't fit the speed sensor. We slide under here and take a look. This is an S13 trans, so this is an S13 speed sensor. See, it looks different, and the plug goes all the way to the bell housing, and then there's that plug. This is where that little harness plugs in, and comes back here to the speed sensor. Now, because we have an S13 speed sensor, it has twice as many teeth as this S14 speed sensor does. So the cluster is seeing twice as many pulses as obviously we should be seeing. Therefore, when we're going down the road at 40 miles an hour, this speedometer is reading 80 miles an hour. So apparently KA, SR, S13, S14, the speed sensors are all interchangeable. So if you're doing an S14 swap and you get an S13 blacktop engine and trans, you need to swap over the speed sensor. So I didn't know that, but it's an easy fix. I'm glad I don't have to like tell the Haltech and run a map to correct the speedo. Alright, so I got my test wiring wired up. I got a relay for the high beams, and I have a relay to give power to the low beams that is triggered by the high beams so that they stay on. So if I pull the switch right now, there's my low beams, and when I flick on the high beams, you can see the second beam comes on and the first one does not go away. So that is what we want. Obviously the Zenkis aren't wired for that, but now it will be. And high beams, you can see they are both on. So I was in here to unplug the power mirror so I could change it out because the new one showed up. And I think I figured out why the door speakers don't work. Because they don't exist. This car literally, it's missing half of everything. Like literally, it's missing half of every system of this car. It probably has half a fuel pump back under the seat, honestly. So the new red mirror is here as I promised. And before I transfer it over to the new base plate, the guy I bought this from so graciously cut the plug off. So I'm going to go ahead and solder this on and get it rewrapped. Alright, these connections are all soldered up. Let's get this mirror together and on the car. There we go. Now the car looks extra goofy. It's like a Clown Car 240. We got blue, black, carbon fiber, red, white, cream, and primer trunk. Yep. Just want to vent a tiny little frustration I've had. I've had like a $40 Weller, I think it's a Weller, soldering iron. It's got like a switch and it's got a light to let you know when it's hot, and the tip comes off, quick disconnect. It's got a cord you can plug in. and it's like never worked that great. And I went over to Harbor Freight. Where is it? It's so small. It's so small you can't see it. I bought a $3 soldering iron. For $3, it should catch itself on fire. It's so cheap. And let me show you the solders it does. It just looks like it should. You know, my wire wrap was a little messy, but it made a ball of solder like I asked it to. And it did it very quickly. $3. Beat out the $40. Ooh, wow, that one's kind of ugly. I'll show it because I'm honest, but blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I definitely don't regret throwing the $40 one away because it's always been kind of a pain. And the tip would just randomly fall out because it plugged in with like the same jack as like a headphone, the 3.5mm audio jack. Why's it got to be complicated? $3. Works fantastic. And you know what? If it breaks, I can buy like 12 of them before it'll cost me the cost of the one that didn't work that great. Alright, rant over. Alright, I'm going to now cut into a $700 Wiring Specialties Pro harness to put the correct plug on for the S14 idle air control. Figured I should document that, so. Oh, that hurt. That hurt me. Alright, so a bunch of the glow shift stuff just showed up, and my oil pressure sensor and adapter is here. I'm going to go ahead and put it in. Obviously, there's the stock one I just took out. And soon we'll actually be able to monitor oil pressure, which running it as long as we have without being able to see what the oil pressure is, a little bit nerve-wracking. So I didn't film it because it was incredibly nerve-wracking, but I've drilled my first carbon fiber hood and installed hood pins so that we are not going down the road and the hood latch rips out and woof, flips the hood over the windshield. So anyway, didn't crack. Hopefully it looks like it cracked because of that weird little imperfection, but that's, yeah, see, it's not a crack. You can see the reflection, the resin's still good. So yeah, worked out, not bad. So obviously I have a little bit of wiring to finalize. I got stuff tied up out of the way. I'm going to be mounting the ECU shortly, but I did just want to show that the gauges are wired. Sorry for the flashing. Obviously that's my camera refresh rate, and it looks purple, but it's actually white in person. But there you go. Water temp gauge obviously is not hooked up yet. I'm waiting on an adapter so that I can unhook the factory coolant temp sensor. There's a one wire that goes to this gauge, and then there's a 2 wire that goes to the ECU to tell it how hot it is. So taking this one out won't do anything but shut this gauge off, and it can read from this. I don't have to drill any new holes in the engine. Shortly we'll see how much oil pressure we actually have, which I'm very curious. And the boost, that will still work too, because it's going to be teed in over here to the map sensor on the ECU. Alright, this is your warning. You're going to see a dead rat. I'll give you a second if you want to skip. I don't know how long this has been in here, but it's probably why it smells weird. Yeah, I think I want to put some gloves on to get that out of there. Alright, this thing's actually coming together pretty nice. Don't worry, I didn't forget to put the hood pins back in. They're just not in right now. But nice and, well, not perfectly clean, but there's not wires and bolts, dirt and wires and tools all over. The back seat is empty now. Nothing on the floors. The seat itself is pretty trash, but looking much better. And the driver's side, I mean, strange seeing it like this. The steering wheel's still pretty nasty, but everything else is starting to come together. I'm sure Jeremy is going to get a new steering wheel once he gets it back, and he already has new seats, so. I'm sitting here warming this thing up, trying to get the window to defrost, waiting for my stupid laptop to update that I didn't tell it to do, and randomly, I just said it, but randomly a clock popped up on the dash. It hasn't worked this whole time, and all of a sudden, doop, analog clock just kind of appeared by itself. Also, the car is kind of warmed up to temp, and we're at like what, 800 RPM in idle, and I, you know, got a decent amount of oil, about 15 pounds. It's basically right where it should be. Why does my camera look so messed up today? Oh. All right, we put about 15 miles on it. I got half a tank of fuel in it now, and we also have about 5 psi oil pressure idling right now. And if I take this thing up to about 2,500, that's not where it should be. It should be at about like 45 right there. Yeah, that's not fantastic. Well, after seeing that low oil pressure, I basically have no choice. I got to drop the upper oil pan, pull the front cover, and see if I need to replace the oil pump or if I missed an O-ring or something. I could have missed the O-ring for the oil feed. I do remember I built this almost 2 years ago, so I couldn't even do a quarter of what I can do now, and I'm always trying to improve. But I remember when I built the VQ for my Altima, when I saw there was O-rings under the front cover that they seal where the engine block to the rear front cover to the front cover, they seal all that together for the high pressure oil that goes through it and distributes it through the engine. This has a very similar setup. I think it only has one O-ring though, but again, I remember discovering on my VQ that, oh, some engines have O-rings in them, because I was always used to building things like KAs or small block Chevys. They're super simple. You got a couple gaskets, a lifter or two, and that's like the whole motor. They're so simple. So it's possible I missed an O-ring. Let's hope. Honestly, if it's my fault, that's fine. We don't have to buy any new parts. Jeremy's pretty deep into this one already. So I'm going to pop the motor out in the next video and see what happened. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope to see you in the next one, and I will talk to you all later.
Calling to say I